You ever read any of WMR reports, Wayne Madsen?
Oh, Wayne Madsen is fantastic.
He's got a new book out you can get on, and it's only about $20, and it's about all the Bush crime family stuff, and the pile of bodies was like 1,000, just get a couple pages in, I mean a couple chapters into it. And I couldn't hardly read it anymore. It's so bad because the connections to the shooting down the people that were in control of like Darfur and some of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Wayne Madsen is a former National Security Agency officer who quit, disgusted,
WMR report,
and he's become a conduit for whistleblowers in the National Security Agency. Now, talk about keeping secrets. People say, oh, you can't keep a secret. The National Security Agency was a secret until 1990. It existed from 1948 until 1990, and nobody knew it. It was called, no such agency. But it's 10 times the size of the CIA. It's got 10 times the budget and 10 times the number of personnel as the CIA. And this thing was completely secret for all those years. Anyway, Wayne Madsen is now the chief conduit for whistleblowers in NSA. And boy, does he have a lot of interesting stuff that's coming from those people. But, one thing I would mention about his book, which is called Jaded Tasks, for me, the part that hit me the hardest in Jaded Tasks was the story about what happened in Rwanda when the plane carrying the presidents of Rwanda and Burundi, who were together after just making peace, flying home, it got shot down. And at that point, a PSYOP program went into effect in Rwanda, basically whipping up the Hutus into this anti-Tutsi frenzy. Now, it turns out that all of that was a CIA, well, not necessarily official CIA, but a CIA-related intelligence professionals destabilization campaign aimed at putting Paul Kagame into power in Rwanda. This Kagame guy had been brought over here and groomed to run Rwanda on behalf of the U.S. interests, the corporate interests, the money interests. And so they destabilized the place with this shoot-down, and then they whipped up what turned into a genocide. Now, I'm not claiming they knew it was going to turn into a million-person genocide, but that's what happened. They were just trying to destabilize it, and boy, did they ever. And sure enough, they got Kagame in there afterwards, and they got what they wanted, which was using Kagame to use Rwanda's armed forces to invade Congo and take over the mineral-rich parts of Congo, which they did. And they now own, and they're extracting a lot of wealth over the bodies of a million genocide victims. So, that's a great book alongside Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, to give you a sense of how this financial empire that runs a lot of the world behind the scenes really works. It goes and seizes resources in these other countries. Perkins describes how he was an economic hitman sent to various foreign countries to offer deals to the heads of state. His deal would be, IMF, wants to give you all these loans at this interest rate, and if the guy says no, he leans on it real hard, does everything he can to persuade him. If he can't persuade him, he says, well, I have one hand I have a bunch of gold, and on the other hand I have a bullet. Which one do you want? And if the guy chooses the bullet, he goes home and they send in the jackals, otherwise known as the asteroids. These are professional hitmen, and they specialize in things like plane crashes that take down foreign heads of state. And if that doesn't work, if the asteroids and the jackals can't get to the foreign head of state, then send in the armed forces like they did in Panama to get Noriega, and like they did in Iraq to get Saddam, and so on and so forth. That's how the empire really operates. Now, why do they want these guys to take the loans in these countries? So they can't pay them back. These loans come with interest rates that force these countries to try to produce for export, but they can't, and so they default, and then the money power moves in and snaps up the whole country, snaps up anything valuable there. They might privatize the water systems and make people pay for water. They might force peasants off the land and force them to grow cash crops and turn over the land to these financial interests. This is how the empire is being built, through genocides and through destroying people's lives all over the world. And I think 9/11 can help us see just how utterly evil this empire is that we're living in. And I don't think there's any other way that we're going to wake up a big enough slice of our population to just the sheer evil that we're living in without having them come to terms with 9/11 truth.
You see people waking up? Are there groups in every city, or what's happening? Oh, yeah.
Well, there definitely has been a lot of movement on 9/11. That's one reason I can't, every time my wife sort of wants me to do something else for a while, I can't, because there's something always happening, and the polls have been amazing. We've had this series of amazing polls since 2004. 2004, we learned 63% of Canadians think that top U.S. officials committed high treason on 9/11. Half of New Yorkers think that. That was back in 2004. This year we learned that 36% of Americans say that our government either did it or let it happen on purpose in order to provoke war in the Middle East. 36%, that's more than voted for Bush in the last election, because this is the whole population. And then we just got a poll showing only 16% of the American people believe the government's telling the truth about 9/11. So we're really getting there in terms of working on public opinion. The next step is to energize people to action.
I was going to kind of answer this question, help answer that. I myself am from a group, along with the other couple of guys in the front, we're from Cleveland, and we do the same stuff you're doing. You know, we do the campus visits, we do library screenings, things like that. And I've been to like New York City, Ground Zero, September 11th, and Chicago for a symposium, and people are waking up all over the place. Like when we go to campus crawls and we talk to people, you'd be surprised when people are either on the fence or already know. Like I'd say a good portion of the country is already either on our side or extremely susceptible to what we're saying.
Right.
I mean, so it's just a matter of vocalizing yourself and getting networked with each other. That's why we came down here to set up a network establishment so we can work together to do something for the good of the whole nation rather than just ourselves.
That's great. There are people doing this all over the country. It's,
Yeah.
it's quite fantastic. It's really, truly a grassroots movement. This is not led by leaders of any kind. This is just ordinary people saying, I'm not going to take this anymore.
Yeah, are there any, does anybody might know of any good websites of events such as these to be able to find them?
9/11 Blogger is a good one.
That's, okay, that's one I
They have
checked
an
out.
event calendar on there. It has.
That's what I,
I
okay.
think that's probably the main one.
That's
Yeah,
probably the best
that's
one?
become
Okay.
sort of the de facto central website for 9/11 organizers. The next big event that I know about is the conference in Arizona. It's called the 9/11 Accountability Conference. It'll be held February 20th to 23rd in Chandler, which is just outside of Phoenix. And a whole lot of the leading researchers and activists will be out there. And it's really good to get together with other people who've seen this and share your thoughts, because you know we're surrounded by what the 9/11 community calls the sheeple, and it can get aggravating to be living among sheeple day after day. It's nice to go to one of these meetups and hang around with people who have left the flock, as it were. So it'd be great to see some of you out in Arizona.
Will you be in Chandler?
Yes, I will.
Will the news be there? News media?
No.
So, well, sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. You know, if we could do some little false flag operations ourselves, because every time they complain, every time some angry person, angry Bushite, like,